Welcome to I'm From the Internet, a podcast about somethingawful.com, the goons, and their consequences. I am disgraced comedian Winslow Domain, sitting here with internet historian jaybrandstetter, and this week we have returning guest Vanessa Guerrero. Vanessa, how have you been?
I've been great. It's been raining in Los Angeles, which is lovely because we never get weather. And I just took one of my anti-anxiety pills, so we've got like 45 minutes left of me being lucid.
Oh, that's great. Well, we'll try to time it out for that perfectly. I keep seeing, I saw a tweet last night of someone who's just like, if you know someone who has a doctor suggesting that they take Effexor, please do not take Effexor. It's just very funny to see things in the wild that I'm just like, oh yeah, what a nightmare that drug has been. I don't know if you've ever been on that particular SSRI, but it is a true nightmare.
Thankfully, I haven't been on Effexor. I'm currently on something called Boost Bar, and for like 30 minutes after, I get these weird chest flutters, and then I just like become dead to the world for like an hour.
Yeah, babe, that's the Holy Spirit. That's what being saved feels like. The chest flutters. And then dead to the world.
That's Jesus working through me.
Yeah, good tour, that one. But before we get into everything, I have to say, because this is the only thing that I've been thinking about, in the, 2 weeks since we recorded the last piece, I have been, I have this 1 month off. I've got March off from shows, and then all of April is Oddities and Curiosities shows. And I have been putting in like 12 to 16 hour days working on these fucking cards. And I'm gonna be done with this goddamn game in like a matter of days. I could knock it out tonight if I have my brain put together. So it's been very exciting and very exhausting. And if you're into card games, please hop onto the Discord, shoot it a pre-order. That would be very cool, and we'd appreciate all that very much. I say we, it's me over there. I'm the one making it. But yeah. Everybody who's contributed edits to the game has been absolutely invaluable. Thank you for checking my work for me. That's been very, very, very helpful for everybody there. And also, we do have a Patreon, $1 a month. You get a whole bunch of extra bonus content. We just added 4 new episodes just like yesterday. So please give that a check out. All of that money goes to Jay and Steve. And, we'll talk more about that later. But without further ado, Jay, why don't you refresh us on the disaster that was the Duke Nukem Forever thread?
Okay, so Duke Nukem Forever, a game that takes 14 years to come out. It finally comes out, and it's pretty disappointing and also really problematic. And then the thread is people sort of grappling with that, like being hyped for the game, swearing it's not going to suck, it coming out, it sucks, and people trying to sort of reckon with like how they deal with it, whether they double down and be like, no, this is still good, we still like this, or they'd be like, no, maybe this isn't really working out. Maybe I'm not a 14-year-old anymore. Maybe it's It's just sort of like this moment of realization for a lot of men. It feels like are approaching their 30s. Yeah,
it is. I don't play a lot of video games anymore, but it is really interesting seeing how intense and visceral and violent and angry the kind of Gamergate 2.0 stuff is getting. With Grumps and a lot of the other, like the Endymion dorks, I'm mutuals with Airbagged, who is one of the guys on the forefront of the anti-Gamergate crusade right now. So it's just very interesting to see how much these people will take a video game and make it absolutely central to their entire identity,
Yeah, like I saw a funny version of that was recently. There's some big co-op game that just came out that's doing really well, and someone was doing one of those, and it's like, don't forget what they took from you, and it was comparing it to Army of Two, which is like the most 6 out of 10 game ever made that came out in like the late 2000s. And it's just like
I refuse to have nostalgia over Army of Two.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw that. I saw you posting about that. I must have mistook Army of Two for A Way Out.
Army of Two was like an
totally
Xbox
different.
360 EA co-op shooter where the premise was you're playing as like mercenaries fighting in the Middle East, but they wear like cool masks and they do like they do like wacky emotes when you're like gunning down terrorists, and it's just like it was like this isn't your dad's EA game. We got attitude while you're like gunning down dudes in the desert. What the funny thing that they skip from a lot of those games, especially in like the Middle East shooters, is that they presume that you're shooting other people that are your same age and gender, when the reality of that war was we were killing a lot of children and innocent women and just like mothers and passersby. And they don't put that in the game. It's all 25-year-olds with turbans. You know, they skip over the reality of the war in pursuit of a more sellable gaming experience. Vanessa, I was wondering, I don't know if I'm just like right up next to it, but has the kind of renaissance of right-wing gamer, anti-woke crusader stuff, has any of that actually impacted your end of things?
Totally.
Yeah.
When I worked at G4, a woman I worked with basically like made a speech that was like, I am not here to be objectified by you.
Mm-hmm.
And this alt-right gaming channel called Geeks and Gamers got a hold of it. And around the time they got a hold of it, I was moderating an interview with this really great creator named Black Forger. And we were doing this like deep dive into like the history of like foraging and like what it's like to be like a Black person in that space. And
sorry, are you saying foraging or foraging? Like finding stuff in the wild? Okay.
Like finding stuff in the wild.
Okay.
I thought you meant like a blacksmith or something. Yeah,
that's where my head went. Sorry.
She like teaches people how to like find edible stuff in the wild.
Okay.
Around that time, Geeks and Gamers basically called for a hate raid on us, and her entire interview was just filled with people saying racist slurs to her, saying racist slurs to me, and I thought that would be the end of it, and I continuously got harassed by people that this channel would send us to, or like The Quartering was another one that would like send people to us.
Fucking guy.
Oh god.
To where like I got doxxed, I got people in my comments saying like horrifying shit to me, like being a woman in a gaming space, just and being adjacent to somebody that had like the audacity to say I don't want to be objectified by you people, immediately put a target on my back.
Yeah, it just seems like we talked about like kind of the Overton window being shifted constantly towards 16-year-old boys, and I don't know, like the more I see about like retro gaming stuff, even from like the early 2000s, it was just like such a boys club all the way through, and like now it's like we're having the growing pains of so many hundreds of thousands of millions of 16-year-old boys who are all being told to knock it off or to be less psycho. And we're just seeing like these tantrums from every corner of the world. You know, it's just so fucking wild and discouraging to see how much hate and anger is being spread in a world that like it could be so fun and cool and inclusive, but it's just being used as yet another platform to scream at women and minorities, you know?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. It does, unfortunately, just suck. But it's actually a good lead into today's episode, because we're going to be kind of talking about a figure from that world who posted in this thread. So this is going to be one of our classic learning about a guy who sucks and then finding out what he was like before he kind of got famous when he was posting on the forums.
We do love a guy who sucks.
Love a guy who sucks.
Yeah. So for part 3, when I talk about some of the other thread characters, we're going to open with Terminex, aka Richard Gobiel. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce his name, but I don't respect him, so I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah, fuck it.
You'll see why.
I'm from Nebraska, where the French word for butterfly is papillon. And we have Papillion is like a small town just outside of Omaha. And it's, we're also close to, in Chicago, we're close to Des Plaines, which is just, God damn it. I get that you're going to like anglicize certain words when they come over, but like it's rough seeing what we've done to the French language.
Yeah. See, I'm disappointed because I listen to Spanish language radio when I drive with Fred because it's how he practices his Spanish, and they don't pronounce New Jersey with the Yoda. They pronounce it New Jersey instead of New Jersey, and I'm just like, darn it, just that was so much more fun if it was New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah.
New Jersey, you roll off the tongue better.
New Jersey.
Ciudad de Atlantic City in Nuevo Jersey.
Yeah, we should just, I kind of like, you know how Mitch Hedberg has that joke about, he doesn't like to floss. He doesn't need individual teeth. He just needs one long curvy tooth. I kind of want to do that with language so that it's all just one kind of like funerary ululation of syllables. Just one big word. We need to take what the Germans are doing and just make it softer. That's my theory. Anyways, Richard Gobiel. Globule.
Yeah, so Terminex, I have his little summary here, but basically he was a big figure in the Duke Nukem 3D fan community. He ran Duke 4, which was one of the most popular Duke Nukem websites at the time and still exists. They have a forum that goes back decades. It's like the hub of Duke Nukem fandom, essentially, like the independent one. So this guy's a forum moderator first and foremost. He's almost sort of like a low-tax figure in a way.
I do love forum moderators as just like, it is the petit bourgeois. It is like the smallest drives people mad, and we've seen that so many goddamn times.
Yeah, and he is interesting because he's actually. No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, so there was a modding scene. There's a modding scene for just about everything, but how? I guess I don't know. I guess I was just curious, like, what's the modding scene like for Duke Nukem? Is it kind of the same thing? I would imagine it's the same thing as Doom, just kind of levels and conversions and stuff.
Yeah, from what I understand, the build engine, which is what Duke Nukem 3D was made in, it has more features than the Doom engine, but it's a little more complicated to learn. Like you can do like non-Euclidean spaces. You can do like House of Leaves stuff with it. Yeah, you could do all sorts of really complicated, neat stuff with it, but it was harder to use. So it was sort of like if you were into the Duke scene, you were making these sort of more complicated levels. That was sort of what was more built for, as opposed to more simple run and gun arcadey gameplay of Doom.
Yeah, like what is it? myhouse.wad is the famous Doom level that is very. It's like non-Euclidean and based around. It kind of has like a House of Leaves feel, the house being larger on the inside than it is on the outside kind of thing. I don't know. That's one of my favorite little creepypastas. I'm 33 years old and I still care about my video game is haunted.
I love that shit. I live for that shit.
I love it so much, man. And I've been doing all the edits for the cards, and so what I've been seeing over and over again is just like video essays of just like something's wrong with my computer, something's wrong with my Game Boy has a ghost in it. It's so fun. I love it so much.
Terminex he's actually credited on Duke Nukem Forever as a contributor because he was a community guy, but he did do stuff like his biggest contribution probably is he created eDuke 32, which is a program that takes Duke Nukem 3D and lets it run in modern systems with all sorts of additions and scripts. Like it's like the way that anyone who if you play Duke Nukem 3D now, that's how you play it. So he also did a lot of porting. This is just a guy who knows Duke Nukem on a technical level as well as like a fan level, and is all over the community. He's a big name there.
Yeah, I do think that there's like we don't have that much control over the games that just kind of like imprint on us. Or it's just like, fuck it, I guess I just played this when I was 15 and now I know it front to back, right? I've been watching replays of a guy playing Command & Conquer Red Alert 2, which I played like crazy. I think we mentioned it in the past, but I played that shit like constantly, but he's going against 7 enemies on brutal difficulty and somehow fucking winning. And I don't know. It's something that's like plugged into my brain for the rest of my life, is just like the ins and outs of every little bit of detail from that game. And I could see how if you were playing Duke Nukem, it would do the same thing to you.
Definitely, yeah. Especially if you were a lot of people, that was where they first got into modding and building maps and stuff was with that. So, yeah. And also, just for me personally, his name's funny because Terminex, with an I before the X, is the name of a termite system that pest control people use. So I wonder if that's why he named himself that, or if it's just a coincidence. But yeah. No, the pest control stuff does kind of have like that defense contractors thing with its name, like Terminex, Centricon, Copasan. Like they all kind of have like that feel to it.
Yeah, a lot of housing stuff is very masculine coded, which is very funny. The outside of the house is a man, the inside of a house is a woman. I don't know. Those are my gender politics. Then again, what's the chimney? The chimney's outside and inside.
A regime.
That is true. I always thought the chimney was the butthole of the house, but we can get into that later.
And so one of the reasons why Richard Goviel is relevant to the sort of Gamergate type stuff is that he founded a gaming studio called Void Point, and they directed the boomer shooter Ion Fury, which came out in 2019, and it was made on Duke Nukem 3D's engine. So this was a new game that was made on Duke Nukem 3D's tech, being published by 3D Realms, the company that they had gone bankrupt and then somebody else had bought the name. It's like one of those weird zombie situations, but it was being published by the same company. So it was kind of a big retro throwback for them to be doing all this.
I don't know. I just think it's funny when people are able to make like zombie games out of old engines. Obviously, there's some that are better for it than everything else. I don't think anybody ever made anything out of the X-Ray engine that was used to make Stalker, because Stalker could barely run on Stalker's own goddamn engine.
It's like licensing Tetris. They don't even know who to ask for permissions somewhere else.
Yeah, you have to ask one submarine commander.
You have to actually go into one of the labs in Chernobyl, and there's a guy there.
You have to go to X16. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the reasons why this game is kind of noteworthy, aside from that, was it had a bit of a controversy. I have the Wikipedia article here with some notes. So on August 16th, 2019, less than a day after the official release, Discord chat logs from member of Void Point were shared, displaying purportedly transphobic remarks by the developer. So this is almost kind of like a dry run of the Brigador situation, where on Discord, this wasn't me though, but someone was posting Discord messages that Terminex and other people were doing, where they were just doing a lot of like, the anti-trans stuff that was popular at the time. Like I have a quote here, like from Terminex. Yeah, if you're trying to decide your child is trans at birth, you have mental problems and probably shouldn't be a parent. Like that big culture war thing at the time, where they're like, about like people making their kids be trans or whatever. Another quote here, something I don't really understand about the social justice stuff is that they have all this stuff like slut walk, which I thought was about the right to not be harassed for how they dress. But then if you portray women dressed the same way, you get shit for it.
Yeah. Well, Vanessa, take it away.
I love when somebody's being willfully obtuse.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a few weeks, a few months of Trump 2, and it's just getting more and more egregious. We're recording this shortly after Jubilee posted the Sam Seder versus 20 conservatives videos, where it's just hard to explain exactly, but it's Sam Seder, who's the co-host of the Majority Report, explaining material realities to 20-something conservatives, and they just like disagree with like the sky is blue kind of shit. Like it's very frustrating. I'm sure you saw the thing about like it's this guy with the like God's gift to fuckboy haircuts. Like he's like, no, the government pays taxes to the government. That's why the FDA is getting tax cuts to hire black people. And Sam is just like, I'm sorry, that's just not true. And the guy's just like, yeah, well, it is. It's just, we're no longer able to argue with anybody ever, because nobody's willing to actually sit down and look at the facts.
Yeah, it's just about can you own the other guy more? It doesn't matter anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, so Terminix is here basically just being like, so when you choose to walk around naked, it's totally okay. But when I draw pictures of you for my video game, suddenly that's weird. And it's yeah, dog.
Yeah, man.
I don't know, dude.
So when Duke Nukem goes shirtless, it's fine. But when I do it with my female protagonist, all of a sudden it's problematic. Okay, whatever. I see how it is.
So shitting is totally okay and totally woke. It's woke to shit in a toilet, but it's not okay for me to shit on your lawn. What? Okay, you know.
I thought you liked the environment, huh? I'm saving water. What's your problem?
Yeah, just dorks all the way down.
Good, yeah. And just, dorks all the way down, just more Terminex. He says, there is no feminist slant in this game, though. So, which is funny because on the store page, one of the things is that it has a female protagonist.
Yeah, I don't know. One thing that we've talked about in the past here is that there is just this kind of like grand mushing effect of all discourse everywhere, where like, there's there's like vegan trans Nazis for Trump. Nobody has any like conveniently alignable political beliefs anymore, right? And so the idea that you would have a female protagonist that would mean anything at all, it's completely up in the air. You know, like it maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it right now it's just some jackass who's probably just put in some, very, very off the shelf female protagonist. It doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, Joss Whedon had female protagonists all the time.
Joss fucking Whedon, dude.
Oh
my god.
Comparing this guy to Joss Whedon would make him so mad, so I'm really glad we're doing that.
That's so funny. I just I don't give a shit about MC, like the Marvel anything, but then when I saw like the original version of Ultron, and then when I saw what they made Ultron into the movie, I was just like, this is going to be my 9/11. I hate this so goddamn much. Like, they took a genocide robot and made it into like a Reddit machine. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, and I guess also just to conclude, of course, he's a fan of the one joke where they go, how patriarchal of you to assume SJWs are men, like just literally doing the did you just assume their gender jokes. Just boring. It's
just such a throwback seeing SJW now.
Yeah, it is just the way that the alphabet soup they're mad about changes, but they're always mad about something that you can't really define.
Yeah, we're running out of letters, It was SJW, BLM, DEI. Like we should just say them. just cut out the middleman and just say them.
Yeah. They don't use pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this got out, and a bunch of figures in the nostalgic gaming community have been boosting this kind of turned against him. And I have a quote from the Voidpoint Twitter account here where one of the people is decrying it, and he goes, "That's your choice, but you should probably do your own research before coming to that conclusion. The crop tool in Photoshop has always been just as much about what you are removing as what you are keeping." So his thing was like, "Oh, well, you don't know the full context to those flagrantly transphobic remarks."
Yeah, I mean, they say that. Is there any follow-up to that ever?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. And so a part of the reason why, and also in addition to these Discord logs, like in the game itself, there are secret areas you can find. And one of them has a comedy slur in it. It has the F slur written on the wall when you go there. And that was another one. It's very hard to see, but it's right there.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, just in general, people being like, hey, what the fuck? We wouldn't have given you money if we'd known that this is what you were like. And so I have, continuing the Wikipedia article here, following multiple requests for a comment on the situation by gaming news sites and retro gaming focused YouTube personalities, Voidpoint and 3D Realms apologized and pledged to institute a zero-tolerance policy on disparaging language. They also pledged to remove 2 lines of in-game text. Additionally, $10,000 of Ion Fury's initial sales were donated to the Trevor Project. And that's normally how something like this would end. But the guy who runs Void Point, the other reason I compare this to Brigador is because the guy is trying to just sort of wiggle out of it. And like I broke up here, like the official Ion Fury account was following an account called SJW Nonsense. Like with all the oh man, 2019 was a very different time. Yeah, instead of libs of TikTok, it was more like SJW Nonsense.
You know, I'm a rough admission here. A million years ago, like a decade ago, when I was using Reddit, I was on, I did see like Tumblr in action, and I was subbed to Tumblr in action for a little bit because at the time, it wasn't just like anti-trans stuff. At the time, it was just like, making fun of dorks on Tumblr who didn't know what they were like, who were completely in over their head and didn't know what they were talking about. And like that kind of stuff appealed to me because it's an instant dopamine hit of seeing somebody saying something stupid and getting called out. You know what I mean? But then over time, you watch it turn in, like the water gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And then you're like, oh, you guys are fucking Nazis. And then you just have to dip. And I'm wondering, I don't know, how many of these people they just don't care either way.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if somebody just doesn't care about like slurs in a game, I have a hard time believing that somebody doesn't care. I just think that they do care, but they don't. It's too much work to like be loud and aggressively in favor of it. Like they don't want to be an anti-SJW advocate or whatever. But they also don't want to ever give any ground to anyone on not wanting to be have slurs yelled at them or something. Yeah,
I kind of get what you mean there. That's sort of like radical centrism approach.
Yeah, and that just like almost always, radical. What is it? Not pacifism. It's centrism or something to that effect, or abstaining from comment. Actually, just it serves the status quo. Like it just. If you're still giving your money to the people who are doing this shit, you're still supporting it, even if you think that it's distasteful.
Yeah, exactly.
And you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone. Or the times they are a-changin'.
So, let's continue the Wikipedia article. The developer response yielded mixed reactions, including a considerable increase in negative reviews on the game's Steam page, many of which accused the developers of censorship. On August 26, 2019, the developers reversed their stance and stated that they would only remove one of the messages containing a slur, but no other content. So they announced they were going to take this stuff out, and then their fans complained, and they're like, actually, you know what? Fuck it, we're not going to do that. And they just went back on it and became like an anti-censorship thing instead.
Are you familiar with it? It was like some big streamer for Bad Company. I think it might have been Modern Warfare 2 or one of those games where they had like a video like tell your friends to stop spamming grenades. We are friends against grenade spam, and it's just, and they have a big F, like it spells it, and like they did this whole skit for it. And I remember when that dropped, even on Reddit, people are like, "Are we really doing this?" like you have to understand, like 2010 Reddit was just 10 years away from like 2000 in terms of our yell at people on the internet with slurs and stuff like that. It's just amazing how far that we've come from one end to the other, and how there's still people clinging to this kind of language today.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I found this thread so fascinating, was because like Gamergate was kind of the point when like when people realized you can kind of weaponize that gamer grievance to more political ends, and this was people kind of realizing like, oh, I don't want to be a part of this. Before that, it's just such a cool time to look into, especially now that we're seeing the effects of that even now.
Right.
Yeah, so I have a quote here from their publisher, 3D Realms. The use of the F slur in an area that was inaccessible without hacking the game and was added by one developer without approval from anyone else was removed a few days ago. We once again apologize for this text as it does not reflect the values of 3D Realms or Voidpoint. Jokes at the expense of marginalized communities will not be present in future games published by 3D Realms. However, a portion of our community made it loud and clear that they felt removing "oh gay." There's a soap bottle in the game, and one of the bathrooms, and instead of "Olay soap," it's "oh gay soap." Like they did that sort of thing where you take the least objectionable thing that people complain about and act like it's the one thing that people are mad about. So that was the big thing. Like, oh, they're mad about this, making a joke about soap. Like that was the way I saw a lot of people complaining about it on the internet when it was the "oh gay" was kind of the flashpoint. So they're like, we're not going to take continuing with censorship and should be protected by free speech. Voidpoint wanted to listen and we respected this decision.
Okay, I do have to say, not you under no circumstances do you have to hand it to Duke Nukem Forever, but at least the slurs they were using made sense in the context. Having a pack of cigarettes with the F slur on it makes sense because that's what the British call cigarettes, right?
Yeah, that was a joke in the Clerks animated series. Totally, yeah.
You're a cigarette.
Right. And so having just like Olay like soap and then making it these people just saw the letters A and Y and they just thought, well, what if this was gay? And then the community rallied around their right to say that soap is gay. This is like, these are the people that we're trying to drag kicking and screaming into like not, threatening to rape or kill individual streamers. It like we're trying to like civilize these mongrels, and it is not working well for us.
The target audience of dude wipes right here.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because otherwise they wouldn't wipe. It should be dude, comma, wipe.
One time, a guy asked me how I never get poop on my thong, and that's how I learned we had different definitions of "I'm done wiping."
I've said this in the past that like a good portion of who I am as a human being has been carved out by listening to women talk about their shitty boyfriends, and like I'm like, well, can't ever do that. Don't want to be that guy. That sounds terrible. And so like it blows my mind when I hear about dudes that are like their balls smell like shit because they don't wipe their ass enough. Why are you not doing that? Do you not shower every day? Like what's going on over there? I have no idea what the common man is like.
God, yeah, especially as someone who are like I bathe Fred, like I take care of him, like it is something like it's uncomfortable to go long without taking a bath, like it just doesn't feel good. Like how are these people who are not cleaning themselves like not realize like, my ass is always so greasy and uncomfortable and itchy for some reason. Must be my laundry detergent or something.
Yeah, your cheeks shouldn't stick together, man. Unless you forgot a fucking Nutter Butter in there, you shouldn't be sticking your fucking cheeks together. Oh my god! Yeah, so gamers, they
Yeah, so
whatever
the
the Russians did to try to domesticate foxes, we need to do with gamers.
Belyev's gamer experiments.
Yeah, Belyev's gamer experiments.
I love it. Yeah. So just wrapping up, it says Voidpoint and 3D Realms issued a joint statement that they would not remove further content from Ion Fury or any further games, stating their opposition to the censorship of creative works of any time. And I have this poster from Terminex on the Ion Fury Steam page where he says Ion Fury game content will not be censored. So that was sort of their official stance. Like, actually, we're just not going to change this. We're not going to be censored. Fuck you.
Right.
And to this day, Ion Fury is one of the disallowed games at the Games Done Quick speedrunning things. You're not allowed to do them along with Harry Potter or Five Nights at Freddy's because of their sort of trans supporting community and everything. So shout out to them for that. But yeah, you cannot play Ion Fury at a speedrunning contest because of this.
Yeah, I mean GDQ is fucking crazy. Like how. I mean, like the event itself, watching those people speedrun those games is amazing. But like, son of a bitch, I'll tune in sometimes, and they'll have raised like 6 figures for like the Malala Fund or whatever, or like juvenile cancer research or something like that. Just really fucking impressive how much money they get moving around for speedrunning games. It's really inspiring to see.
Yeah, it is really cool when people make a community and like a social group out of a very niche activity like that. I think that's one of the reasons the speedrunning is such an interesting thing. It's like, yeah, this is something that is so outside of the boundaries of like regular gameplay, but people can still appreciate it and relate to it. It's cool.
Right.
Yeah. There's one bit here, since I have the O-Gay soap bottle here, and just to sort of give an example of some of the other joke products in Ion Fury. So just so you can see the level of humor in here, we have the McMonster, salt and fat, 10,000 calories for the true American. So you want to imagine, if you want to explain humor to an American, imagine a burger, a really big burger.
Yeah, it's all very easy.
Yeah, or like another, really dating the people who made this. There's a parody of MTV, WTF. It says, "We were cool when Coke was cheap," except their font sucks, so it looks like it says Cheed. The P looks like a T.
It does look like Cheed.
Yeah, and I can almost guarantee you that that was a T-shirt that they saw somewhere else, and they just put it in the game with that credit. You know what I mean? Like that's too specific of a joke to have been thought of by the dipshits behind this game.
Yeah, complaining that MTV doesn't show music videos anymore. A complaint that is old enough to rent a car at this point.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah, and also the guy who made H-Doom contributed some graphics to it, which is a funny thing to reference, I thought. H-Doom, for people who don't follow it, it's what if Doom, except the monsters are hentai? That's what the H stands for in H-Doom.
Yeah, there's a whole underground for people that do that like tried to make the Binding of Isaac sexy, and I'm like, oh man, I don't think you should be put on a list. I don't think that there should be like a waiting period for you. I think you need a 9 behind the ear. That's not good. You shouldn't make Binding of Isaac sexy, you fucking animal.
Yeah, you check the workshop for Darkest Dungeon. It's like, I didn't think that this Lovecraftian horror game needed tits, but apparently I'm in the minority of that opinion.
Yeah, I like my hot's hot, my cold's cold, man. I don't need to be aroused by anything. Like, I'm not, trying to take sex out of movies or anything like that. Like, it has its place, but I don't need to be titillated when I'm playing a video game. Like, it doesn't do anything for me. If it's a part of the storyline, or it's like a part of the setting, like that can make sense, right? Like I mean, I'm not saying that this was the goal of the game, but like Silent Hill 3, the whole mood of that game is you're a 16-year-old girl who's terrified, who's going through puberty, who is in this world of horror, and a lot of the monsters are based on like physical dominance or like predation over you. Like they'll mount you and shit like that. It's subtle, but it's scary as fuck. That makes sense. But yeah,
it works with the narrative.
Right. But just like taking like there's this, I can't remember what the fucking name of this game is. It's a very weird name. I can't remember, but it's just like a sci-fi shooter, but she has like you're shooting at somebody. Yeah. Where she has like H cups, like they're the size of fucking State Fair watermelons. And it's just like a shooter, but you just have massive cans. And
no, it's even weird because with Haiti, you're a robot. So it's like you have massive cans, huge ass, and then just like a little featureless robot face on front. So it's just like a next level objectification. Like you don't care about that. This is what you're here for.
Fascinating. Yeah. Wait. Go back to Haiti. Have you seen Haiti, Vanessa?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah, this was like a big indie shooter.
Character model looks like.
Yeah, those things are crazy.
I know, that's fucking insane, dude.
Oh, that's a human version of her. But yeah, just a caked up robot. Like what if one of those little those ones that the fake robots Elon was showing off just had like a dump truck ass?
Yeah,
what if iRobot it was something you could masturbate to?
My dear sweet friend was trying to get me to play Nier Automata, and like I've heard great things about it. It's a very interesting story. It was a lady that was trying to get me to play it, right? And so like she is has a good radar for like creepy, shitty things in in fiction, but I don't want to play a game that I feel like I have to hide the screen when my roommate walks in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to play as like sexy little anime girl with a little skirt. Like that just, I don't, sorry, dog. That's too much. I'm not interested.
I had that happen to me when I was 18. My little brother got a Wii for Christmas, and I rented No More Heroes. And I was playing it. My mom walked in my apartment. Travis goes like, "So if I win, will you do it with me?" And that was the first time I was like, you know what, this is a little immature for me to be playing in front of my mom. I feel a little embarrassed. Like I like Suda 51 and that stuff in that game and everything. But yeah, that was a very funny for her to walk in on.
I did.
So this is what the cartoons you like are about, huh?
Oh wait, hold on. When I was a little kid, I got some PlayStation 1 game for Christmas, and I fucking can't remember at all what it was, but I was playing it and my mom woke up from a nap and walked in, and I paused it, and it was just like some shooter game, and the pause screen had all the options, and she just saw, like, through her blurry eyes, she just said she saw the SFX bar and she thought it was sex, and I had it turned up to maximum, and she said, "You turned that sex all the way down." And I was like, "It's SFX, like special effects or sound effects, Mom." And she was like, "Oh, all right, well, that's okay then." I thought
okay, I just remembered another fun one. I had a lot of younger siblings, so sometimes, like with narrative games, I would play on the TV and they'd watch and like make choices and stuff. I was playing Indigo Prophecy, which is a European adventure game. Okay. And there's a part where your ex comes to visit. We're playing the guitar and they're making choices. And there's a part where you make a choice and he winds up having sex with her. I'm like, oh god, I gotta try to skip through it because our mom's in the kitchen while we're in the living room. These two video game characters are having sex. And it's like,
did you ever play Indigo Prophecy, or was it like, it was called Fahrenheit or something to that effect?
Yeah, that's the European title of it. Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
It was Indigo Prophecy in America. It was the first game. It was like the first adventure game by the guy who did Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human, like that type of steez.
Yeah, and one of the things that it bragged about was like it has 512 or some odd different endings to it. Like it had this huge number of endings. And I was like, that's crazy how many stories, and like that's like so many games in one if you can get to 512 endings. And then if you look at like the disparity between the endings, it's just like you're wearing one shirt or wearing a different shirt depending on a choice that you made earlier in the game, and they count that as two separate endings. It's as if like they consider getting killed by every individual enemy in Half-Life 2 a different technical kind of ending for the story of Gordon Freeman. It's like, oh, he was killed by a barnacle, which is the end of his story, and entirely different from him getting killed by the Combine. Very much juicing the fucking numbers on that one.
That game is so funny. Like I could talk so much about Indigo Prophecy, just so much weird stuff with that game. Yeah. I love it.
I do want to say, if you haven't played Who's Lila, it's a Steam game. It's super fucking interesting, and it has a bunch of different endings. And yes, it does the thing where there's like a bunch of similarities between the endings, but it's a game that I've never seen another game like it. And not to tangent myself or on another tangent, but Vanessa, have you heard of Who's Lila?
No, what's that?
Oh god, this is homework for you. Just look up a little video of it. It's a ultra low res point and click adventure game where you don't choose what you say in dialogue. You click and drag the parts of your face to make the facial expressions that are appropriate for the conversations you're having.
in the Duke Nukem Forever thread, and they're very funny. So I'm going to read his post here. So this is after the game came out and people are starting to criticize it and call it sexist and stuff. So this is him responding to that. Am I the only one here who actually gets the joke that is Duke Nukem Forever and likes the game? Between people whining about Duke Nukem Forever having many of the same gameplay mechanics as every other FPS in the past decade, and the fucking pussies crying about alien rape, then in parentheses, you guys must despise the Japanese and their entire hentai culture if you're this upset over a single scene in a video game.
That's insane.
Right up the gate.
You know, if I can summarize the Japanese culture, the entire culture of the country of Japan, stretching back thousands of years, it's the pornography that a infinitely small percentage of them have made in the past 70 years. That's all of Japan is their culture of hentai rape. Not to belittle the actual social problems that Japan has. Obviously, there's a lot of weird shit going on over there, but I don't think it's fair to say that the pornography from a region encapsulates the entire culture.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Jesus God. Tell you how they feel about octopus.
Yeah, that's a really awful version of It's a Small World after all. Just all the different porn cliches from the different countries.
Oh yeah, that makes me think of my I think I've mentioned this before on the pod. I had a buddy from a past life who every once in a while will make a suggestion to me that is like the worst thing I have ever heard, and I am constantly saving him from ruining his life. And he suggested to me, dude, you should make you're making a game that's so cool. You should make a game where all of the characters get powers based on their stereotypes. Like if you're Asian, you're really good at math, and if you're black, you're really tall and like really strong. And it was just like, what if you made a game that was as maximally
that was
racist?
A 2006 Adult Swim show called Minority, so that wasn't even an original idea.
Oh my God.
Really bad show, by the way. Even as a teenager, I was like, this isn't funny at all.
Yeah. It was just like, yeah, man, how about you do that? Like, this is the guy who, like, in 2021 was like, hey, man, I was thinking of doing what you do where you sell stickers, but I'm going to sell racist ones and Black Lives Matter ones and then get double the money. And I was like, go ahead, give it a shot. Why don't you spend it? It's customary to spend all of your savings on the first order of stickers. Go and do that right now. Go and do that right now and come back and tell me how they sell. Constantly saving that dude's life.
Thank you for your service.
You're basically, oh God, what was that cartoon? Mark Anthony and Pussyfoot.
I don't know that one.
The Looney Tunes.
It's the one where it's the big dog and the little cat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like a borzoi chasing a little kitten around. No.
No.
So anyways, we're continuing from hentai culture. I'm almost ashamed to have an account on this forum anymore. Jesus, some of you are fucking embarrassing. What happened to the goons of yesteryear that made fun of crazy bitches and their dead baby shrines? And who are you pansies who have apparently replaced them? So even 14 years ago, they were like, oh, this place has gone downhill. It used to be so much better before, you know.
It makes me think of... I saw a post about like what 4chan's B-board used to be like and what it is now. And for the record, I'll go backwards on this one. What it is now it was like a guy dressed as Guy Fawkes, and he was like anonymous, and he's very kawaii, and he's at some sort of con, and he's like all the B-board is now is just a whole bunch of cute dorks who are just trying to have fun with their friends. I miss what it used to be and what the B-board was when I was using it. And it was a grown man with a receding hairline who had a pair of young girls' underwear strapped over his face and two loaded revolvers pointed at his temples.
I knew exactly the picture you were talking about.
You knew what I'm just like, yeah, man, I miss the pedophile suicide adults. That's what I miss from this website. I say all of this because in the time since recording the last episode, I realized that our podcast has been mentioned on Kiwi Farms, which is very funny to me. Because they said that they were excited when we announced it, but then they got really disappointed because we were moral F-slurring, which is a very funny thing to accuse somebody of. You're just like a bitch towards morals, which I think is very funny. But they had a lot of heat for Jay. They hate, they're like, they hate you for being a furry and they still think you're fat and all that. But they did call me a struggling goth comedian, which I think is very funny that they acknowledge the struggle, which I think is very sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. My struggle, I feel seen.
Yeah, I gotta admit, that is one of the things that makes me feel good. Is like whenever somebody really doesn't like the show, it's usually like, I'm glad you don't like the show.
Yeah, Jesus.
Perfect. And continuing on that note, Terminex goes, good job parroting half the crap that fundamentalist Christian morons had to say about Duke 3D in 1996. Duke was over the line then, Duke is over the line now, and that's pretty much the entire point of the game, which seems to have flown over most of your heads. Disclaimer, before anyone wants to be a smartass and use it as some kind of R-slurred argument, I have a lot of history with 3D Realms. I started the eDuke 32 project, and my name ended up in the credits for Duke Nukem Forever. My opinion of how big of sissy some of you are wouldn't change a damn bit, even if this wasn't the case. So he's literally like we talked about in the Flame Warriors. He's bringing his credentials. Put my company name in the paper when you say that I was mad.
I just like I've seen this argument so many times of like, I can say whatever I want. I've labeled it satire, therefore you can't get mad at me. And it's always just like, yes, but do you disagree with anything that the character is saying? And they're like, well, no. You know what I mean? Like, if we had a game that was just like, Klansman Simulator, and all it was just being extremely racist, and then the entire game would like sit you down and read to you the entire, God, what is that insanely hateful book? Not Mein Kampf.
Protocols of the Elders of Zion?
Yeah, sure, that works. It wasn't the one I was thinking of, but that works. But they read to you the entire Protocols of the Turner Diaries. That's what I'm thinking of. Like the entire text of the Turner Diaries, and then it rolls the credits. That's not really satire. That's just a game made by people who probably agree with all of those things and think that it's okay. You don't get to have it both ways.
Yeah, it's like watching Wonder Chosen and then watching $1 Million Extremes World Peace and just seeing like, oh, this is what it would look like if they weren't joking. They were just like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't get to have both of these things,
Continuing his rant here, I do, however, pretty much agree that George is a moron and an epic fuck up for letting this game take this long to make. He's referring to George Broussard, who is the lead developer of the series game there. And concluding, before I forget, I showed my wife a YouTube video of the Wholesome Twins' demise, and she agrees that you guys whining about it are pussies. She says it's rated M for a reason, to get the fuck over it or don't play Duke, period. I tend to agree with her. I love that this is a recurring thing, is people getting their wives and girlfriends to comment on threads for them.
Yeah.
That's so embarrassing.
Yeah, well, I guess to lighten it. So people do roast him for the hentai thing, because that's pretty ridiculous, even for 2011. And he goes, continuing, since you guys are obviously R-slurred, I guess I have to explicitly state that the mention of hentai is an example of a culture that is able to separate reality from fiction well enough to not freak out over things like that. As far as hentai is concerned, I used to think it was dumb, but my wife has tentacles, and we actually make our own hentai by having Grandpa draw pictures of our horrible acts. It's really a lot of fun. You should try it. Rolling with the punches there.
Yeah, it's also just like you can tell that's what happens when a person runs out of things to say.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just like, oh, well then, what if my wife was made of pudding? Like this.
Yeah, I'm married and I watch hentai. Jealous? No. Oh, crap. I didn't think of anything after that.
Yeah.
Continue. I'm complaining that SA users have apparently turned into a bunch of morons who can't even take a joke. It doesn't really have anything to do with maturity levels. I mean, seriously? I get that it's immature for me to call people R slurs, but it really seems like there's no other explanation for people jumping to the conclusion that somehow they're making a joke out of or condoning actual sex crimes or anything like that. God, this guy writes long sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Even the complete joke setting, the whole thing was obviously supposed to be portrayed as a horrifying ordeal, as evidenced by Duke's comments after they die about how the alien's bitch mother was going to pay.
And I guess I should probably explain the scene he's referring to here. There's in the beginning of the game, Duke Nukem is getting blown by the Wholesome twins, which are a parody of the Olsen twins. I think we mentioned that when we talked about last time. And later on in the game, you go to like an alien hive and you find them, and they've been forcibly impregnated against their will by aliens, and they are begging for Duke to save them. And he's basically goes like, oh, you've been with an alien, you're not worth it, you're not worth anything to me now. And then they die because they explode and the aliens jump out of them. So it's supposed to be like a parody of a chest burster scene, but it's just really gross and creepy in a way that does not jive at all with what Duke is even supposed to be. And that's like a lot of people's flashpoint for like, yeah, this game really missed the mark. And this is him defending the alien rape dungeon level.
You know, Vanessa, what do you got on this?
I think it's so funny that on more than one occasion he's been like, my wife says it's cool. Because I can't think of like anything more than what their definition of like a pussy is than like, I need to check with the woman to make sure it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, like they're just, you know, they're both the stand-up man who doesn't need to ask his wife for permission to do anything, but then goes and clarifies his opinions with his wife before posting them, which is, you know, it's exactly, yeah.
I'm not sexist. A woman agrees with me.
Yeah, thank you. I just think about that every time I see like, if your gender politics only goes so far as elect more women, then I'm just like, yes, Candace Owens, Ann Coulter, you know what I mean? Just Phyllis Schlafly, get these women in there. It's like, oh, no. Yes, it's probably a little bit more nuanced than that, you know? You know?
Yeah, and that sort of concludes his thing in the Duke's thread. But while I was researching this, I did find him bragging about committing insurance fraud, which is pretty funny.
What?
This was in the BMW thread, which of course he drives a BMW. Yeah, I'll just read his post here.
The service contract on my E46 330 2001 with about 90,000 on the clock just expired, and I managed to ding them for a new DSC module and a new GM5 on the last day of coverage. Those contracts are usually a pretty big waste of money, but the car still had 2 years of coverage left when I got it. I think I bled them for $5,500 in work in just those 2 years, and I'm pretty sure their full payout over the life of the contract was, well, you know how the meme goes, over 9,000.
And this is in July of 2010, so...
I do love that the timbre that your voice takes on when you read these, because you know that these people are fucking twerps. you don't,
yeah,
like,
twerp voice.
Over 9,000 is exactly, you can't. Also, this makes me think of a tweet of like the AirPods. Apple releases AirPods. They're like the best seller in the world. They release AirPods 2, best sellers in the world. And then it's Sony at the Sony headquarters going like, why won't our FGX 4130, 4499, 64RB, why aren't these working? Our new flagship item, the 4130, 64R, F39B. Nobody's buying our 4930, 64F, 40, like, and so just having a BMW called an E46 33 or 330 2001 is, guys, just calling cars like car 1, car 2, car 3, car 4. Like, doesn't need to have a cipher. I don't need to have to consult the stars in order to understand what kind of car I'm getting.
For almost a year, and I still can't tell any of them apart. I just, you know, When I got the car, I made a list of everything I knew would probably be bad by the mileage I got it at, and dropped it off at a local indie shop I frequent. I managed to screw them into buying me male HD control arms, Rogue shock mounts, UUC FCABs, RTABs, and everything in between that time. So he's like, I screwed them. Just bragging about it, yeah. I guess it wasn't really screwing them since they sent out a complete bastard inspector every time they did any work. So it wasn't, if I was committing a crime, why did they try and stop me, huh? Like, I love that, but yeah, we don't need to read the rest of it. But I thought that was very funny in line with everything. Just seeing him bragging about that in there to impress complete strangers on the internet.
I mean,
oh yeah, no,
I'm not against insurance fraud. I just think it's funny that, like, you know, like you are getting the full patina of a character. You know what I mean? You're getting every layer of null oil that darkens him a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, someone who didn't post very much on something awful. Because most of his posts were in the game development thread. They were just talking about technical stuff I didn't understand. So it was very funny. The few glimpses into his life were just like, ooh, yeah. But yeah, no, after learning about this guy from Ion Fury and everything, it was very fun to just sort of find another layer, like another nugget of crapitude about this guy that had been lost until now. So don't gotta hand it to that guy. Don't buy Ion Fury. And luckily, I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that because the sequel came out and it did not do very well. Ion Fury has over 5,000 reviews on Steam. Its sequel, Phantom Fury, only has 549, and it has a mixed review. So less than a tenth of as many reviews as the first game.
Yeah, you know, it's just like so funny how many of these like kind of shovelware games get put out to nothing, you know? I don't know. Yeah, because I think I saw some stuff about Phantom Fury when it was coming out, but it just looked like every other throwback shooter that we've ever seen. So I don't know. Just another.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it too. Is by this point, boomer shooters as a genre were a whole thing, so it wasn't as unique anymore. Like when Ion Fury came out, that was new. It was like, oh, people haven't made this type of game that very often. Now there are more build engine shooters out there than you know what to do with. You don't really have to settle for the one by the transphobes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that they're struggling.
Same here, yeah. And I will say I have one more person here that we can wrap up with. So if we have any other final thoughts on Phantom Fury or whatever, we can do that here.
Remind me what happened to I Am Gay.
I Am Gay. That they were the person with the rule. That's right. They So we did the episode on them between these two, the dumbest boy in the world. You mean what happened to him since then?
Yeah, sure.
I thought you were asking me about that.
Yeah, because I Am Gay was the guy who had didn't know how to measure things. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was the one who thought all of his rulers were wrong because he was comparing them to pictures of rulers he found on Google Images.
Oh my god, that's so goddamn funny!
It's so fucking funny, dude. What a summary. And yeah, he has been permanently banned from somethingawful.com. Unclear why.
I looked into it some more. It was kind of like in the past. He's basically apparently looks like his family died. He had a parent who he lived with who died, and he inherited their money and house. And he's been getting into like weightlifting and stimulants and doing a lot of DIY projects. Like one of the things is he bought a $199 pepper mill, and I the website is like because he got into cooking, he was like, well, obviously I got to get a really good pepper mill for this. Just seeing him, I guess they were just like, you're kind of getting to the point where you're kind of, we don't want to be responsible for what happens to you.
Yeah, that sounds like somebody spinning out. I fucking love ground pepper. Don't get me wrong. I put like 4 times as much pepper in things than the average mortal. But yeah, that sounds like somebody I wouldn't want to hang out with for sure.
Yeah.
Well, good that they're gone, but
yeah, I haven't since Ion Fury came out. This guy, there's not really much about him. Like his LinkedIn page hasn't really been updated. Like it looks like he just kind of crashed out after this. Like I guess he was hoping he could reinvent himself as like a reactionary figure, and that just never materialized.
You know, it's sad to see people turn to the reactionary side on things. Like a normal YouTuber or content creator or whatever. Go for the reaction paycheck, but it's also really fucking sad when you see somebody try and not really get any purchase. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's even funnier.
That's so
finally
funny.
I can be who I really am. Oh, nobody cares. Crap.
And nobody cares. You know, like I've just had so many things where I'm like trying to find people to like help promo the game, and I'll just see like channels with like 44 views on their latest video, 15 views, no comments, and it's just like a guy in his bedroom playing a video game and complaining about groups of people that aren't present. It's like, man, turn off the mic. Just that's called muttering. You just need to mutter. You don't need to do it on cam. That's sad. Stop trying to monetize this. Anyways, Super Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, we're closing out here. I have some posts from a poster named Super Mecha Godzilla. They're one of my favorite posters on Something Awful. They were a big figure in they're still around, in the movie subform, Cinema Discusso, where their thing is they would do these very in-depth analyses of movies that were very out there, but presented in a way that was pretty interesting and sort of gave you insight into the thing, even if you didn't agree with his take on it. And he didn't usually talk about stuff other than movies, but he showed up in the Duke Nukem Forever thread, and his posts about trying to analyze why Duke Nukem Forever failed to succeed in the way that Duke Nukem 3D did, I think are a really good way of sort of summarizing the game's failures. So I thought I'd read them and maybe we could sort of go over those here.
Sure.
All right, so Super Mecha Godzilla says here, Duke 3D homaged and parodied 80s and early 90s action films by making the villain such ridiculous villain caricatures that Duke was an acceptable protagonist by comparison. Roddy Piper and Snake Plissken are goddamn psychopaths and they live and escape from New York, but the point of the films is that society is so broken that these guys can thrive. It's a deliberate part of the films, presenting extreme cynicism. Snake ignores a rape in progress because he's that desensitized and amoral, with a smattering of dark humor. Snake's nickname apparently comes from his dick tattoo. Duke 3D's Pig Cops were in a context where the Rodney King beating and the LA riots were still fresh in people's minds. Not only that, but the villains behind the pigs were basically rapists. The cheesy Mars Needs Women premise getting a gruesome subversion with the aliens referencing outcome. Duke 3D didn't joke about the rape. It treated rape as a serious problem equivalent to racism and class warfare, to which Duke was a source of catharsis, if not any actual social change. Duke was a patriotic figure specifically because, despite being a working-class schmo, he's so unenlightened that he's exclusively driven by basic urges to fucking kill. The women and civilians in Duke 3D were just normal people doing their jobs, even if they are strippers or whatever. In other words, they're us. They're the folks feeling oppressed by the government corruption and other social ills who are crying out for a populist hero to save them. That Duke is ultimately an idiot gave the game a measure of honest-to-God complexity. Duke Nukem Forever treats these normal characters with relentless and utter contempt. Any pretense that Duke was a working-class hero have been dropped, and now he's apparently a billionaire in a solid gold penthouse with a fucking throne. The aliens no longer represent police corruption or the patriarchy, but rather foreign cultures. See, the weapons of mass destruction joke. And obviously, they joke about the rape now because the people being raped are no longer audience stand-ins, but rather a bunch of semi-conscious, inhuman inferiors. And then he has an aside here. Yeah. What makes the Olsen twins so objectionable that they need to get taken down several pegs anyways? Besides that they're female, of course. Since when did they represent wholesomeness? And why is wholesomeness the enemy now? Because, their name in the game was the Wholesome Twins as opposed to the Olsen twins. Yeah. The aliens are basically now equivalent to Duke. The line separating him from the baddies is altogether erased. He's not defending anything good, even accidentally, because instead of reacting against the status quo, however clumsily, Duke is the status quo now. And it's fucking unbearable. And
yeah, that was very interesting. And I do have to say that the one note that I had at the top there was that the pursuit or the blanket excuse that a lot of these kinds of works have is, well, we make fun of everybody. We treat everybody with contempt. And it's like, yes, but that's not an excuse for like how egregious and above and beyond you go in your treatment of other groups of people, right? Like they have created a game that is like thoroughly socially ugly with very little redeeming qualities, and it's like even in Warhammer 40,000 where like, the average person is a 6'6", ultra Nazi. There's still stories of like humanity, and so it's just funny how it failed so utterly because they just decided to paint everything with a bucket of shit.
It really did. Yeah. And I found this old ad for Duke Nukem Forever when I was researching it. I thought it was kind of like a fun illustration of what he was talking about. Because like this old ad for Duke Nukem Forever from the 90s, it says, accept no substitute. And it's a drawing of Duke with all these people dressed up with him. And there's like old lady Duke, fat Duke, skinny Duke, little person Duke. And like they say, like Duke Nukem isn't really a character. He's just kind of like this abstract ideal that you can imitate but never really live up to. Whereas like if you look at how they promoted him in like the actual Duke Nukem Forever in 2011, it's him looking down at you with like the gun that he hold, like that's between his legs pointing at you, like he's telling you to suck his dick. Like he's literally looking down at you. It's just the approach to this character is so different from how it first started. It really is, depressing.
Yeah, there's nothing relatable about this in any capacity. Like you could, one of the big ways to criticize my ability to engage with media is that I've played very few games, but like what I like about Strelic or Marked One from the first Stalker game is that he's just this like confused, weak man who's terrified of the world but still has to poke his way through it. And the same thing with Harry and in Silent Hill 1 is like, you're just a guy. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it engaging, And having a guy, like having a main character who actively despises you, it just doesn't make for an engaging story.
No.
Yeah, no, I think that's why even like the target audience didn't seem to react very well to this game. Like that's one of the things about the Terminex thing. Like, the fact that he's defending Duke Nukem Forever is probably going to hurt him more than like the actual other stuff in that community, because it's like they do not like that game.
Yeah.
And then I guess I have this one last Super Mechagodzilla post here. He says, I think the change in atmosphere from previous Duke games makes sense when you realize that the people who are making Duke Nukem Forever and the people who are buying Duke Nukem Forever are the same exact people who bought and played the first games almost a decade and a half later. Duke Nukem Forever is quite literally a midlife crisis. It's been 14 years since the last time Duke did anything. He can't run as fast or as far as he used to. He can't carry as many guns as he used to. He can't take a bullet as well as he used to. The frat boy sensibility about women from the previous games has darkened to a sense of fear and no small resentment. The pregnancy motif in the alien level is important here. Regretting having children, Duke? The game's willingness to make fun of its protagonist even as it supports him is completely gone because its desperate clawing after virility cannot tolerate that. For a game sold as comedy, it takes the fight to preserve the masculinity and youth of its main character incredibly seriously, not realizing that the fight is already lost. When a vehicle breaks down on Duke Nukem, he responds, "Aw, and it got such good gas mileage." That's not a thing Schwarzenegger or Van Damme or Bruce Campbell would say in the films Duke Nukem is supposed to be parodying. That's the thing your dad says when the Volvo is beyond repair. Duke Nukem Forever is a game about an aging, sexually insecure man, made by aging, sexually insecure man, sold to an audience of aging, sexually insecure men, which perfectly captures their anxieties. Duke Nukem Forever is art.
That's very very astute. If you could say that about Duke Nukem Forever, I think the original games it was inviting you, the player, to look at Duke Nukem and like see the whole world through his lens, and then the game was written as Duke Nukem as a character within it. And then Duke Nukem Forever it's like from the perspective of Duke. And so it's like everything else is shit, I'm great. And it's just like this very fragile way of viewing the world and of making art.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think it's generous.
Yes.
Yeah, like I do think that also like this type of failure doesn't really exist anymore either, because like a single person getting to dictate the conditions of a game this long, like the industry doesn't really work like that anymore. Like I know there's like it's only indies that really do this now. Like we mentioned Silk Song, like smaller studios can do this now, but big games like the Duke Nukem Forever of today don't have this same type of individual ownership and authorship like Duke Nukem Forever. Like if Duke Nukem Forever happened now, it would be focus tested, it would be like a reviewed. It might still suck, but it wouldn't suck in the same way. In the same interesting ways, I guess. At least I think.
Yeah, I can't think of a recent game that was like super grotesquely anti-woke, or you know, or like not like mainstream game that was like broadly hated for the same kind of things that Duke Nukem was. You know, I also like that you named the file Duke Nuke Them Forever.
Yeah, it didn't make it into the document proper. But yeah, I just like saying that. Like I call the video games beat them ups. I just think saying them instead of M is inherently funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess to sort of tie into his point, I actually looked up like George Broussard, like we mentioned earlier, like the lead dev, like he's always front and center whenever you look at the development of the game. And like they mentioned, like, yeah, watching him go from this like young, like small developer to the head of this big studio to like an aging guy who has, you know, put out this game and been sort of rejected by the community. It's just the picture, as viewing it through the lens of the creator, that's just an interesting take. Like I would love to see a video essay or something from someone who knew more about both of these things exploring that. Because yeah, just an interesting take on that.
That's not Corpse Grinder. That looks like Corpse Grinder. Google Corpse Grinder. Vanessa, do you know who I'm talking about?
No, who's that?
Bro, this is my favorite. Every time I go to Target, every time I have to do this guy. Come on, don't do the same thing. Oh man, he farts.
Pull it up, Jay, would you?
Okay, I see it. Yeah, I feel like
yeah, see what I mean?
I mean, heavyset guys with long hair wearing dark t-shirts kind of all just have that look.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Doppelganger.
He's the guy from Cannibal Corpse. He's really good at claw machines, and he whenever he gets a chance, he apparently wins a bunch of toys from claw machines and donates them to the local orphanage, which is a very funny thing to say about Corpse Grinder from the band Cannibal Corpse. So
I love it. Yeah. I guess let's just sort of end here. You know, Duke Nukem Forever itself ends on a cliffhanger. That's kind of the funny thing about this is people spend all this time waiting to get the finale, and it ends with Duke being killed in action in a nuke. And then after the credits, he goes, "What kind of shit ending is that? I ain't dead. I'm coming back for more." So it ends with the promise of more Duke Nukem Forever. You want to know what they've done with Duke in the 14 years since this game came out?
Is he in Fortnite?
No. So there was DLC for this game, but other than that, they made DLC for a re-release of Bulletstorm that replaced the main character with Duke Nukem. So they literally just put him in someone else's game if you paid extra for it.
Oh man! Have you seen the episode of Smiling Friends with the gaming CEO?
Yes.
They could not have been more correct about like how vile. I mean. Say what you will about the people that make Smiling Friends, but their depiction of the gaming CEO like greedily gobbling up IPs to sit on them and do nothing is just very funny to me, because it's like, how many times have we seen amazing, like EA buying up the rights to so many games and then just running them into the ground, shuttering the studio, and like milking all the money away after it's gone, you know? But just to see Duke Nukem ending up just being shoehorned into somebody else's game because he's not valuable enough to be put into his own game. It's just, sometimes the greatest insult is faint praise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're good enough to be put in somebody else's game. And we say that because you're not good enough to have your own. Yeah, and he didn't get a new game, but they did delist Duke Nukem 3D Megaton Edition from stores and replace it with Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary Edition, which is more expensive but has less content. I think I mentioned that last time, but that's the only other thing they've done with it, is delist the cheaper collection and sell a more expensive one. And also, Terminex was actually trying to make a re-release, and because of this, he had to shut it down. So he kind of got screwed over by this too. So there's an upside to it, at least.
You know, I think the industry is I hope, heading towards a collapse that will fertilize the ground for a lot of cool indie projects. But the past 10 years, I would say, has been nothing but, people release a game, it does well or it doesn't do well, and then their entire studio is shuttered. You know, we're like the worst business practices across the board have found their way into gaming. And it's just like, oh man. You could only get away with this because the majority of the client base is 16 years old.
Yes, exactly.
You couldn't do this with anybody else.
Yeah, just really glad I didn't get into making video games for a living. It does not seem like a fun industry.
Yeah.
And I guess just to sort of end on a positive note, I do like where Duke Nukem kind of exists now in internet pop culture. Like a lot of times when I see it, it's usually like being ironic about him to be sort of like respectful or like I got this like since a new Monster Hunter just came out, there's like this Monster Hunter meme where it's Duke Nukem holding a sword and it says, "I like Monster Hunter, but I can't play it because it makes me sad to hurt the cool monsters, especially when they try to limp away. It is too much." Like the idea of him actually being sensitive and caring is the irony is simple, but it's fun. People do stuff with that. Yeah.
I felt that same way about the geckos in Fallout New Vegas. They're too cute to kill, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I like rats and the giant mole rats. The stick that makes them explode in Fallout 3. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Stalker has the blind dogs that like whimper when you shoot them. It's like, oh man, I don't need all this.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another nice one was Kino Fabino. I want to shout him out. He's a guy who does these really. He's a meme guy who does memes, boomer shirt characters, and his Duke Nukem ones are fantastic. Like I have this one of him vaping and holding a monster, and it says,
"Damn, bro, you look tired. Take a sip of this and tell me your deepest desire."
Just like this, like very friendly, vaguely homoerotic take on Duke Nukem is very fun. Or
don't you dare raise your voice at me. I am a sensitive guy, and I don't like it when people yell at me.
Just these subversions of the character are very fun.
It's called The Art of War. Why are there no drawings?
God, his 3D model is so funny, dude. He looks like he's wearing a couch. Like his skin is so rough,
made of polyurethane.
Oh boy.
God, yeah, but that's the Duke Nukem Forever thread, baby. I'm glad we got to end on something fun after that nightmare.
Yeah, fuck. Well, Vanessa, how do you feel?
I feel drained.
Figured you would say that, yeah.
I feel like no human being should know this much about Duke Nukem.
Yeah. This is I like to think of our podcast as like kind of a cognito hazard that we are just broadcasting to the world. We're making ourselves worse so that we can make the world a little bit worse, you know?
Yeah, we're like going into the zone. We're going into the zone to get artifacts. We're coming back with our stickers red because we were out there too long, but it's worth it to entertain y'all.
Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, they brought us back wrong, but well, I gotta say this game sucks. The people that like it suck, and I'm better than them. Go pre-order The Restless for just $5 on winslowdomain.com. There's no rape monsters in it, I promise you. Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know my work that well. But that's all for us. Vanessa, where can they find you?
You can find me under NESS Guerrero on Twitter and SNES Guerrero on Instagram, and I believe it's one or the other on TikTok. I don't remember.
Perfect. And Jay, where can they find you?
I'm jaybrandstetter pretty much everywhere. I'm just focusing on the show in my Tower Unite condo right now. So send me a friend request on Steam. You can totally visit.
Cool. Well, you can find us at IFTIPod on Twitter and IFTIPod at gmail.com. If you have anything else you'd like to add, we do have a Patreon. For $1, you'll get all of our bonus episodes. We just added a shitload of new content to that. So hop on there. All of that money goes to Jay and Steve. As for me, I am, I'm at Calculations on Instagram, Winslow Domain on Twitter, winslowdomain.com for everything else. And and if you're interested, we do have a bonus episode. I'm looking at it right now. Coming up soon, we have Duke Nukem Does the Internet, where we're getting even more Duke Nukem content straight into your femoral fucking arteries.
Yeah, this is a themed bonus episode that ties into it. But thankfully, it's not just going to be about that. We're going to talk a little bit about like the whole phenomenon of books and media about the internet and how to teach kids how to use computers and stuff. It's a fun thing. And also, there's another thing called a Deathmatch Manifesto that was made by the same company that we talk about a little bit in as well. So it's a neat look at mid-90s books trying to teach gamers how to use tech.
Interesting. Well, that's all for us. We thank you for listening, and we will be back next week with even more worse things.
Take care.
I'm From the Internet is created by jaybrandstetter and Wins the Domain. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Isbrook.